Hello and welcome to Thermoplastics 101. I'm Lyrical Villain Cosplay and today we're going to talk about thermoplastics. In today's panel, we will dip into some common brands on the market, how they are different, and the basics of using this material, in order to help you understand how you can make or reinforce your props and armor. We will go over a few common methods, such as the fold-over method, in which you only cover the outside of your armor piece with plastic. We will also be going over the sandwich method, in which you encase your entire piece in Worbla. There are a variety of thermoplastics available, some with more variations than others. So let's start off by talking about Worbla. Worbla is one of the more well-known brands of thermoplastic. We will cover a few of their more common products. The first is Worbla's Finest Art. This type of Worbla is a little rougher than the other products, but has an impressive adhesive quality, which usually is the shiny side. It can also stretch very well and go into crevices and small divots. As you can see with this gauntlet, I used a single layer of Worbla to make the pieces. With enough priming and sanding, I was able to give it a smooth finish. I also used Worbla's Finest Art on Alistair's microphone. I used the sandwich method to encase a foam base in plastic and make sure the prop would be basically indestructible. I also used it to sculpt the eyelash details on the front. Worbla also produces a smoother thermoplastic called Worbla's Black Art. This thermoplastic requires less effort to smooth and prime the final product, but is less stretchy and adhesive than Finest Art. Worbla also makes a clear thermoplastic called Transpart. This plastic can be dyed, glued, and has some self-adhesive properties. It's also often used to make ice or fire effects with props. I used Worbla's Pearl Art for the LED flower that you see here. Worbla's Pearly Art is the smoothest, used for fine details and filigree work, but is also the least adhesive thermoplastic. It was very easy to press into a silicone mold to give the petals a little bit more life. In order to prime, smooth, and finish your Worbla, you will need to alternate between sanding and layers of either Flex Bond or Gesso until you reach the desired smoothness. This is especially important when using metallic paints on a project. This was how I got my desired finish for the armored glove. Next, we'll talk about Zibra. Zibra is very elastic and gummy in its consistency. It's able to melt into fine creases and grooves and is perfect for sculpting or creating dramatic curves and shapes. It's highly adhesive and very smooth. It requires very little priming past sanding it lightly with fine grit sandpaper, and it's undoubtedly one of my favorite materials. I used it in a fold-over method for this Grey Warden shoulder emblem. As you can see, it maintained the level of detail of the foam underneath it. I also used it to sculpt this mage staff. Next, we'll talk about Wonderflex and Foshape. Both of these materials were made by the same company, but serve different purposes. Wonderflex is one of Worbla's main competitors and has less variants on the market. Their first product is just plain old Wonderflex. This material is smooth on top, but reinforces with an adhesive fabric mesh on the bottom. This can give the plastic a slight grid texture depending on the application of the material. Their second product is Wonderflex Pro. This is as smooth as Zibra, with a high rate of elasticity and is adhesive in nature. It can take on greater detail and curve than Wonderflex can. Finally, there's Foshape. Foshape is a felt-like material that hardens once heated. It can be sewed into garments and once heated it will maintain whatever shape you pressed it into. Remember to save your scraps. Thermoplastics can be very, very expensive, so saving your scraps for smaller projects is highly advised. Thermoplastics can be used for a variety of things to include sculpting. They can also be melted down and flattened back out into larger sheets. I'll be making Scarlet Witch's diadem or tiara or whatever it's called, and using a purchased PDF pattern for the example. You can find that in the description box down below. I'll be using the fold over method for this example. Here are the things you'll need for this project: foam 1 to 2 millimeters, Sharpies, scissors and an X-Acto knife, a heat gun, a hot knife, Zibra, glue, fine grit sandpaper, and some silicone tip sculpting tools. We will start by cutting out 2 whole pieces. Next, lay your pattern over one of the pieces. You'll lightly cut the lines through the paper and into the foam. Be careful not to cut all the way through the foam. Once you're done, you can completely cut out all the negative space areas. Next, take your hot knife and burn the rest of the lines that you'd cut into grooves. From here, carefully glue your 2 pieces together. Now it's time to melt your thermoplastic to your foam base. If you do not have Zibra or could not find Zibra, you can use another highly elastic thermoplastic, like Wonderflex Pro. Using the silicone tip tools carefully, press into the divots. Trim. Reheat and fold the edges over. Now you can shape the prop and lightly sand. And finally, you can paint.